Well, good morning, Good Shepherd. You got the memo. Who here showed up last night at 5 o'clock? Okay. Who came at 9 and was like, in a little bit, we'll see people coming in at 11. I know it's always a risk. It's always a challenge when we change our schedule. But I think it's more than just schedule convenience. The reason a few times throughout the year we are going to gather as one community of faith is so that we get, all of us, a more perfect picture of who Good Shepherd is. We're a congregation that is blessed to have 3 different services, Saturday at 5 o'clock, Sundays 9 and 11. And yet, the challenge for us is to not be 3 individual congregations or expressions of Good Shepherd, but to remember that we are one church, one community, united around one mission, to connect people to true abundance in Christ. And so thank you for coming at 10 a.m. this morning, for adjusting your schedule to come together to be the church on this God's Work, Our Hands Sunday, something that we do as a part of the wider church that we're a part of, the ELCA. Congregations all across the country are observing God's Work, Our Hands Sunday. There are these yellow shirts across cities and towns and the countryside all over America, serving, blessing, feeding, and showing the world in just with a little glimpse that we Lutherans, we Christians that follow Jesus in the Lutheran tradition, prioritize not just what happens in our buildings, but that what happens here is an equipping, a training to send us out into the world to meet real needs. Our faith has always been a force that draws us into the world, not set apart from it. We don't cloister ourselves away like a bunch of monks. We want to live an active, daring life of faith wherever we find ourselves. And I don't know what the ELCA was thinking when they put it on September 7th this year with this lectionary text. They did not serve me up a softball to hit. I'm going to, write the bishop or something. What a challenging text. One of the hardest texts. Jesus, do you really mean that we have to hate our father and mother? My mom was just here the last 3 nights. I love my mom. I don't want to hate my mom to follow you. My mom wants to follow you, Jesus. What do you mean? What do you mean? And then all of this talk about counting the cost. You don't build something without knowing if you can complete it because you don't want to be made fun of. All of us here that are familiar with Kenwood, we're thinking of that tower over there that was left undone for years until it was redeveloped, right off the freeway. Whew. No one goes to war without knowing if you can actually defeat your enemy. What is Jesus after? Yeah, I'm not the best theologian. I'm not the best theologian in the room. I mean, Pat Badke and Marge Anderson are here. So, Alex Hoops. Well, where is he? He's up there. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Give him his moment. Give him his moment. Give him his moment. Alex was supposed to preach today. Alex was slated to preach. And Alex is like, the whole church is coming together. You're the senior pastor. You should do it. I see you. Here's what I think, and it's probably not the most in-depth, it's probably not the most theologically astute. My seminary professors might say, Lorne, there's 10,000 deeper messages here in Luke 14 that you could preach upon, but here's where my heart is. Here's where my mind is lately. I think as I read through Luke's gospel up until this point, we see something remarkable happening. We see this figure named Jesus who comes from Nazareth, who grew up as a carpenter's son, who grew up with modest beginnings, begin a remarkable world-changing ministry that has changed the course of human history ever since. His beginning is very humble. His beginning is very meager. The start of his ministry begins as he leaves his hometown and he goes to the side of the shore and he calls some brothers to come and follow him, to be disciples, to learn the way and the teaching of following him. And then others begin to assemble. And it's a group of disciples unlike any other rabbi has ever had in the history of rabbis. Tax collectors, and then later, something that we don't see as clearly, because when we think of the 12 disciples, we think of all these men with biblical names. Bartholomew and Titus and James and John and Peter and Judas. There's women, so many women that are a part of the group of Jesus that are following and serving and learning and leaning in. And then in a matter of time, there's not just 12, there's 70. There's 70 people following that call themselves disciples. And then there are the crowds. The crowds. And you have to imagine, for Jesus and for those people, it was exciting. It was exhilarating. All he's doing is moving from town to town, region to region, and using words that come from his heart, using his hands, using his feet to bless and heal and give people a glimpse of the kingdom come. Jesus' ministry is so simple and yet beautiful. He speaks words of life over people that are longing for new life. He sees people when nobody in their village sees them. Others who are discounted and who people believe are too far gone, can never be cured, who are sent to the outside of society. Jesus isn't afraid to not just see them and talk to them. He's not afraid to touch them. Not worried about being made unclean, but knowing through love, through God the Father, he will make clean. He will heal. He will bless. He will love. Words and actions. And this remarkable thing happens. The 3 and the 12 and the 70 multiply, and the crowds are gathering, and word is spreading throughout the region about this rabbi who's unlike any other rabbi. And when you read through Luke 14, up until Luke 14, you see all of these remarkable things that Jesus is doing, and you see the excitement and the energy build. And now, here's what I've come to know about Jesus. Jesus was never in this thing called ministry to be a celebrity. He was never in this so that his name would be great. The reason Jesus did everything he did was to give people a glimpse and encouragement and the foundation of love for their own life so that they can live differently themselves. Jesus didn't do any of his signs and wonders and miracles, and he didn't preach sermons so that people would say, wow, what a great orator. Everything he did was so that people would have hope and meaning and purpose and life. He was people-centered. You see, he wanted to connect people to God's vision of true abundance. Because the world people were living in, and still do live in, is a world that peddles false abundance, false hope, false truth. This is why Jesus came. But I have to wonder if his heart wasn't burdened, if his heart wasn't overwhelmed at times, because as the crowds began to grow and as more and more people came out to see him, I can't help but wonder if Jesus wasn't concerned that all of these crowds only understood one part of the equation. You see, as people came and sat on hillsides and pressed through crowds toward him, it probably seemed as if everyone was concerned with what they could get from Jesus. What can I get from him? And the needs on face value are not wrong. People had needs. I have to think at that hillside where Jesus blessed and fed and multiplied the loaves and fish, that all of those people were hungry to get something. Some of them, a word of hope. Living in a religious system where you weren't even allowed inside parts of the temple because, well, gosh, you're not holy enough to be there. I can't help but think some people wanted to get a message of hope, a message of love. People wanted to get healing. They brought their sick, their lame. They brought hearts filled with a need. Other people probably just wanted to get entertained. I want to come out and see what he's doing. You really tell me he can work miracles? I want to see it with my own eyes. What can I get? What can I get? But in all of his brilliance, and what makes him truly, I think, a remarkable rabbi and teacher, like every good teacher we've ever had, is Jesus was concerned with not only giving people what they wanted to get, he was after helping people see that they had something to give. You see, people were always coming to Jesus looking to get something. And every time there was a real need, Jesus gave it. But what he gave wasn't just the immediate need, the immediate healing, the immediate acknowledgement. What Jesus really gave people was an understanding that they themselves, created in the image of the God of the universe, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, that they had something to give the world. The life of discipleship. We get more than we could ever imagine or ever deserve. Grace is a free gift from God. And here at Good Shepherd, we are guided by grace. We do not earn our salvation. We do not earn a place in God's kingdom. It is given to us, free of charge, unmerited, undeserved, unearned favor. And in response to that, we are equipped to give our life away. To reorient our lives around a contrast society that is not concerned with accumulating or getting or building or stacking up chips, but is wholly free to give ourselves away, to bless, to heal, to love, to serve. And then we find the mystery of our faith, that when we lose our life, in other words, when we give ourselves away, we find ourselves for the first time. T.S. Eliot is one of my favorite poets, and he has this beautiful line. I will not quote it verbatim, but it's one of the most beautiful lines in poetry. He says, "We," talking about the human condition, "shall not cease from exploration. And at the end of all of our exploring, we will arrive where we began and know ourselves for the first time." We shall not cease from exploring. And at the end of all of that exploring, doing, striving, trying, earning, building, creating, we will arrive where we started and know ourselves for the first time. This, to me, is the mystery of discipleship. I've gone through so many seasons of my life. I'm still prone to it, of wanting to do for God, wanting to build, wanting to explore, wanting to create, wanting to make it about my work. But at the end of all of my exploring, I can't help, as a humble disciple and follower of Christ, to arrive where I started, which in God's eyes is loved. To arrive where I started, where you started, where we all started. In these waters of grace and mercy, of life. And then to know ourselves for the first time. Humble and insignificant, and yet as if I and you are the only one. That's why we say here at Good Shepherd, every one, every day. It's a value of ours. Every one. It's as if you are the only one. And Jesus sees you and wants for you to use your heart, your hands, your feet to give your life away. God's work, our hands, can be treated as sort of this trite thing. It's like a program of the church, right? Once a year, we put on the yellow shirts, or we don't because we're rebels, or we don't because we don't like the color. It took a lot for me to put this on. Anytime I wear this, I think, I am not a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. We can treat it as that, or we can treat days like today, where we're reminded that we are called to take our faith outside these walls, every one of us, every day of the week, as a booster shot in the arm to remember that what we do is not just about what we get from church. It's about how what we get here, hope, community, purpose, meaning, equips us to give it away. You see, here's the other thing that I can't shake from my brain, and then I'll wrap it up. We live as educated Lutheran Christians through that tradition as very educated people of faith. Ration, reason, critical thinking. I mean, my goodness, after high school, I've had 12 years of formal education to be your senior pastor. 4-year bachelor's degree, a 4-year master's degree, and a 3.5-year doctoral degree. I am proud of being a part of a tradition that prioritizes critical thinking, rational thinking. I think it's a good thing that we have a faith that uses ration and reason. And yet, here's what I know to be true. We never can think our way into a new way of living. What we can do, though, is live our way into a new way of thinking. And I think that's what Jesus is after. He's telling his people in Luke 14 here, this is about giving your life away. Don't think your way into a new way of living. Don't over-intellectualize this whole faith endeavor. And I think that's one of the temptations we can have when what we do is gather here week in and week out for classes, for worship. God's work our hands and other moments like it are an opportunity for us to get out of our head and into our heart and into our hands and into our feet and to actually go across the city, places like Tikkun Farm, and to see migrant communities that garden and tend to the gardens there, to go down to Taft Elementary and to see how people in our own city face challenges that many of us cannot imagine. To get out of our head and into our hands and into our hearts, and as we serve and bless and walk alongside others in this city, we can't help but think differently. We can't help then to live differently. Just put your hands up one more time and repeat after me. Dear God, these are my hands. This is my heart. But really, it's all yours. Amen.